Good morning and welcome to another episode of Like It or Leave It. Hope you guys are enjoying yourself. I currently in the moment am not. My studio I'm trying to run by myself at the moment, and I've got my microphone acting up a little weird. I got both the cameras, but my cat's currently messing with one, so I don't know if I'm able to use a side one for this video or not. Chowder, knock it off. Or don't listen. Go get yourself a cat, you guys. They're great. They don't listen. They sleep all the time, and but hey, they're cute to pet and cute to look at. So what do we got for today? Today we got some draft recap, some playoff news, and then a couple of other miscellaneous topics I want to go over in the world of sports. Sorry, I got to keep readjusting my microphone. Apologize, it doesn't want to work with me very much today. So, one of the first things I want to talk about today, a lot of times in business, one of the ways to get bigger is by buying out a smaller business. Now, it happens all the time. It's if you're doing movies, the other guy's doing movies, you get really big, you buy out the other guy because you partly are buying out your competition, and B, you get their customer base. Happens all the time. Not really a big deal in terms of sports, or in terms of life, I'm sorry. But when it happens, people tend to get upset. And they're like, oh, it's the big guy buying out the smaller guy. How's the smaller guy ever supposed to compete? Well, no offense to the smaller guy, but that's just kind of life. If someone has a bigger, better podcast and they want to buy my podcast out and they buy me out, I get compensated for what I had, and then I can't do much. Then it's theirs. Well, in the NBA this year, one team used that business plan and that strategy. I apologize. This is really going to bug me all day about the microphone. The Golden State Warriors at the beginning of the season signed Kevin Durant. Not big news, obviously not breaking news at the moment. And it's had a couple different reactions throughout the season. People saying the season's ruined. It's a super team. They have 4 of the top 10, 11 players on one team. It's no fair. They're going to blow people out. Like, they ruined the game, bought themselves a championship. All that might be true. But the fact is, they really didn't need Kevin Durant. They simply bought out their competition. If you look at the other teams in the Western Conference this year, the only team that you can say could make a case at beating the Warriors is the Spurs. Well, what if they didn't have Kevin Durant? Then you know who the team that would make a case of beating the Warriors are? The Oklahoma City Thunder. Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, Enes Kanter, the size that they had on that team was built to give a team like Golden State, which is small, problems. Kevin Durant, who knows, maybe this would have been his breakout defensive year, whether it's in the Thunder or the Warriors. That team was the only other team besides the Spurs who, quite frankly, I don't think the Warriors are nervous about. It's Kawhi Leonard and a bunch of older guys, and it's Kawhi in the system. And I think Golden State is confident enough in their system that the Spurs don't scare them. The Thunder did scare them. The Thunder had them down 3-1 in the series last year. The Thunder had a legitimate chance to stop them from even making back-to-back NBA finals. So what did they do? They went out and they acted as the big business in which they are, and they bought out their competition. Kevin Durant doesn't need to be on the Warriors for the Warriors to win a title. He just can't be on OKC. Because if he was on OKC, the Warriors would be stressing right now. They would think, oh my gosh, how are we going to deal with this? They had us down 3-1 last year, have more size, more experience, another year. Like, that'd be the one team that you would say would give the Warriors a run for their money. Does it ruin it for the rest of the NBA? No, not really, because with free agency, everyone gets to make a pitch, and they technically even make it, better for you to stay with your original team. It is more advantageous for you, the individual, to stay with your original team than to go and form one of these super teams. But obviously, that doesn't happen all the time, and thus you get the super teams. If I sell electronic products and I start to make noise and Apple or Microsoft feels like I'm going to start competing with them and they're just like, they don't want to deal with this down the line, they can buy me out. They buy my customer base, they get my product line, and they get me out of their way. The Warriors bought Kevin Durant's points, they bought his defense, and he's no longer in OKC, and he's no longer in their way. I love Mondays. A lot of people hate Mondays. I generally like Mondays. I like starting my week off strong, even though I tend to start my weeks more on Sunday than Monday. So Monday's never been the first day of the week, so it's never been the drag it has to other people that it has been to me. Really glad. I know I'm doing this is a late upload and a late podcast. I apologize. My lighting's gonna be a little off. My audio might be a little off. I apologize, but I really wanted to get it out there because I've been so inconsistent as far as my uploads. I'm like, I got to do it. Got to get it out on Monday. I got a really cool compliment over the week. I got two of them. I'm going to talk about one now and then one a little bit later. Those of you that watch ESPN and FS1 and like watching radio shows, Chris Broussard's got a really good one for In the Zone. I've always loved Mike and Mike in the morning. And I'm just shouting out guys I like. It's obviously they don't need my shout outs or my attention. Just simply, this is who I like watching. I used to love, one of my favorite memories was walking home from middle school and seeing this 3:00 Sports Center broadcast or 6:00 Eastern time. And it was Stuart Scott and Chris Berman. That was always super cool to me. Love both of them. Obviously, one's retired, and rest in peace to Stuart Scott. But another guy who I really started to like on his radio show this last year is Colin Cowherd. Now, I met Colin was introduced to Colin through Sports Nation, probably like a lot of you guys. Him and Michelle Beatles. They're a really good team, really funny, really enjoyed what they did, loved that show. And then, obviously, he had his own ESPN radio show, but I didn't listen to it very much then. Then he moved to FS1 a little over a year ago, and since he's been on FS1, I've really loved the show. Watch it almost every morning. Watch it borderline religiously, even though I don't get to watch it at the same time as it airs, but I go back and watch the reruns, look up the podcasts on YouTube and all the different segments and stuff like that. So, really love the show. And I got told over the weekend, it's like, you're kind of like a black Colin Cowherd. The way that I make my analogies, the way that I introduce and do my segments, and the way I relate it to real world things. And to me, I realized afterwards, I'm like, whenever you do something, you kind of bite the style of anyone you've watched previously do it. That's what we do as people. Monkey see, monkey do. We mimic. And I realized, but I never did it as a way to, I'm going to copy Colin's style and I'm going to be just like him. Since I'm not a very big channel at the moment, a lot of the subscribers of mine are my friends and family. And not a lot of my friends and family watch sports. The things I talk about sports-wise, they're not going to get. Like I was just talking to my aunt this week, and she's like, I've watched your podcasts, but some of the sports things just fly over my head. But I like the way you're doing it. You've got a good presentation. And I was like, cool, thank you. And that's why I like analogies and comparative analysis, because a lot of people that I know don't personally watch sports not nearly as much as I do, or even as much as an average person. And they're not going to understand everything. So I simply relate what I'm talking about to something they know. Like I was talking to one of them the other day. I was like, dude, what's a triple-double mean? I'm like, I don't get this. You talk about triple-doubles. I don't get it. What are they supposed to be? Dude's a really big gamer. Well, a triple double, in the best way I could explain it to him, was like, well, say you're playing Call of Duty. You got 10 solo kills, you got 10 assisted kills, and you captured 10 checkpoints. That was the way I related to him. He's like, okay, that makes sense. That's why I do analogies. That's why I make comparisons all the time, is because that's the way my current viewing audience and the people that I'm just close with, how they would relate to it. Because they're not going to understand it if I tell them, well, of course, LeBron's averaging 28, 8, and 8, and he's shooting 45+% from or 50% from the field and 40% from the line. But when you compare it to Steph Curry, who's shooting 44% from the line, and then who's also shooting a 90% free throw shooter, they'd look at me going, wait, what? What's a free throw? A shooter? I played that on Gears of War. They're not going to understand it. So that is why I do my comparisons, why I do my analogies the way that I do. I'm not trying to copy a style of someone. It's simply the way that I think the average person can relate to it. So, wanted to talk about that. Speaking of comparing and making comparative analogies, the NFL has always had the comparison to gladiators. You get these big, tough, mean-looking guys in this arena for 60 minutes. They duke it out, fight it out, and the winner comes out on top. Difference is now we throw a football and tackle each other instead of feeding them to lions. We've progressed. With that, one of the most primitive and most tribal things I think people do, and it's a lot of times, it's more so the NFL than the other sports. Like the other sports, it happens, but not nearly as much. Mitchell Trubisky was drafted number 2 overall by the Bears. Whether you like the trade, dislike the trade, however you feel about the player or the team, I don't particularly like the trade, nor was I particularly crazy about the player. I'm sorry, I don't like the 13 starts, all the other reasons you've heard before why Mitchell Trubisky is not the greatest showcase for a number 2 overall pick, or even just the top quarterback in the draft. But that's neither here nor there. You've got all these people in Chicago. They showed the shot as soon as he was taken. All these people booing, throwing stuff, having these outrageous reactions. He went to the Bulls game the day after, and they booed him out of Airlines Arena. Are you kidding me? That's how far we've come. That we boo and throw beer and shout at this 22-year-old person, 22, who most of you would say 21, 22-year-old kid. I won't call him a kid. I'm not old enough really to call him a kid. But most of you guys would call him a kid. And that's who you're booing? You know, I defended LeVar Ball on the premise of being a dad because he has 3 kids who are about to all go to UCLA. One who's going to the NBA, probably all 3 going to the NBA, in all honesty. And so defended him on the dad aspect, whether you liked his style or the way he did it. And I'll defend Mitch Trubisky on how many of you are doing so well in your life that you graduated from a major program, a major school, and you're now going to the NFL and you're going to make millions of dollars. I don't know about you. I'm not in that class. Most of you aren't in that class. But all of you want to sit there and boo and yell and throw beer and shout at this guy who is. We always tell people, and it's one of the oldest things that you tell kids, treat others like you would want to be treated. Be kind to others. And I know a lot of you that were throwing beer, shouting at this kid that most of you would call, some of you have told your kids, treat others how you want to be treated. Be nice. Be considerate. Be generous. Except when he goes to your football team and you just don't like him, so you're just gonna boo and throw beer. Okay. I'm real glad we haven't come as far from throwing people in the ring with lions. I don't get people sometimes. I really don't. All right, let's look up some scores from yesterday. We have Angels over the Rangers 5-2. Padres over the Giants 5-2. Diamondbacks over the Rockies 2-0. I'm so sorry, Colorado. I literally made a video about the Rockies. And they've been 1-3 since I made that video. I'm really sorry. I don't believe in sports jinx, but right now I just feel kind of bad. Dodgers over the Phillies 5-3. I actually had a friend go up to that game in LA yesterday. Said it was kind of nice, but he still says Petco's the nicest park in the bigs. We'll work on that with him. Red Sox over the Cubs 6-2. Did you see the home run Hanley hit yesterday? Did you see the home run Will Myers hit over the weekend? I know I made a video about Will Myers and hitting for the cycle wasn't that impressive. The ball he hit in San Francisco, that was impressive. See, I've even got my Starbucks. I look like every other radio personality now. Where's my makeup guy? All right. So I've got a couple more draft stories. Some I'm going to save for tomorrow. I've also got more baseball topics I want to do tomorrow. And I'm gonna do tomorrow more like draft breakdowns and who I thought had really good drafts, who I thought had bad drafts, questionable choices. Like I said, I want to do the Mitchell Trubisky one just because that to me made no sense. Like we're really yelling at a 21-year-old who has a successful life to this point. But some of that stuff will come tomorrow. I'm also hoping to have a co-host with me on one of these shows either this week or next week. I'm going to talk to him about it. It's more so getting someone to get up at 3 a.m. is usually the hard part. The playoffs I've talked about in spurts on the show. And I talked about last week about, it's kind of just everything's been expected so far. Like there is nothing really new about what's happened or anything unexpected happened in these playoffs. Like there's been a couple of good games, but it's been what we expected, and I still think it's going to be what we expected. If you look at the current, if it'll pull it up for me, actually, be a nice thing to do. Here we go. Or when your computer breaks on you halfway through your show, so you look really professional. Okay, so we're going to look it up over here on my other computer. So, and I wanted to comment on this headline actually. So, right now you've got on NBA at CBS Sports, they're predicting all the series. It's starting with Western Conference, Warriors versus Jazz. Out of their three writers, Warriors in 4, Warriors in 4, Warriors in 5. The dude who says Warriors in 5, I think, should be fired. The Clippers, or not the Clippers, I'm sorry, the Utah Jazz, all power to them. They weren't supposed to be here. They're really young. They have a low payroll, not a major market team. They have no true superstar, just a couple really good players. Like, credit them, the fact they've made it this far. You're getting swept and destroyed by the Warriors, though. I just don't see a scenario where they even come within 15 points of the Warriors in any game. I don't. I think their best player, Gordon Hayward, would be the 5th best player on the Warriors. And in basketball, that stuff really matters. In football, you can get away with it. You can scheme. You can have team defenses, like different strategies to help deal with the fact of the difference in talent. In basketball, you really don't have that. So the Warriors are sweeping the Jazz. Spurs and Rockets. So out of their 3 riders, we have Spurs in 6, Spurs in 7, Rockets in 6. I'm going to make the really unpopular opinion, and I'm going with Spurs in 5, and I don't think it's close except for Game 4. I think the Spurs are about to have their way with the Rockets. I think this is where you're going to see the real difference between stats and greatness. People have been telling me all year, I made my Kawhi Leonard's MVP pick about 2 months ago now, and people are like, oh, he doesn't have the stats to beat Westbrook and Harden. I love stats. They're great. I don't deny Westbrook being the MVP. That's fine. But you're about to see the real difference in Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. I don't think they're on the same planet. I don't think they're in the same stratosphere. I think Kawhi Leonard is about to have his way with James Harden and the Spurs. I would call sweep, but I think James Harden has one great game in him this series because he didn't play really well last series. Like he had game 1, he played well. The rest of the series, he was just okay, and that team's not good enough for him to just play okay. Eastern Conference. We got Celtics in 7, Wizards in 7, Wizards in 6. I have Wizards in 6 in this series. Obviously, the Celtics are already up 1-0. But I think when it comes down to it, I think John Wall is going to start forcing his will. I think the Celtics got their one great game out of the way, which is they hit all those threes when no one is expecting them to. And I think John Wall, once again, is going to establish his greatness over Isaiah Thomas. I love Isaiah Thomas, but there is a reason why no guy that small has won a title nor will win a title. Because when your guy is 5'9", you can just kind of force your will. Like, John Wall is 6'4", 215 pounds. Like, John Wall is like a small LeBron James in terms of physically. He's going to run over Isaiah Thomas. I'm sorry. I really like Isaiah Thomas, but John Wall is going to run him over. He is going to dominate. He is going to force his will, and Isaiah Thomas has really no chance. Cavs versus Raptors. This is a really cool one. Cavs in 6, Cavs in 5, Raptors in 6. This is the only team that going into the playoffs. This is the one team I think a lot of people had as like they could beat the Cavs. You get DeRozan, Kyle Lowry hot. They had the big guys, Valanciunas, like who big guys have continuously disrupted LeBron. Have made it tough on him. That was the team you said could give the Cavs a challenge. I don't think so anymore. I think it's Washington's game to lose. I think Washington's the only team, not game to lose. I think Washington's the only team that can give them trouble. I do have, though, whenever the Cavs lose, I have them absolutely imploding. Whether it's in the conference finals or the NBA finals, I have them absolutely imploding. And I mean losing either in a sweep or in 5 games, and it's not going to be pretty. LeBron just looks gassed. The rest of that team is really just not that good. And you guys know how I feel about Kyrie Irving. I like Kevin Love, but I think Kevin Love has literally just gotten worse every year. And I think he peaked in Minnesota, and he's just been average based on that since then. And I think the Cavs are in for a really rude awakening. And everybody on here has the Warriors. So there's Warriors, Cavs. Someone has Warriors. And then when Ethan has Warriors, Raptors, and then Warriors, Cavs. Everyone's got the Warriors winning. I think that's pretty much the consensus. I had the view last year. Until I saw the Warriors lose, I just wasn't going to believe they could lose. And even when they lost, I spent a good 2 days just thinking, oh, yeah, the Warriors just won another title. Because I just never thought Cleveland was better than them. LeBron's great. LeBron played the greatest 4 games of his life. But he wasn't better than the Warriors. once again, you guys, I'm going to make sure, apologize for late upload, but I'm going to get videos out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Hey, shout out, also I forgot to say this, shout out to Paul Pierce. I want to do a greatness video on him in the next day or two. I'm hoping to get that out. That truly is a great player, and I think a role model for a lot of guys who aren't that athletic. Props, Hall of Fame career, great player. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to get videos out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Hoping to upload on another video on Thursday. This is all just goals. Like, I want to do the greatness video, hoping to get that out tomorrow. On Thursday, I want to do another Twitter reaction video, which I'm going to post the link to the first one I did in the link down below. Still getting used to all this YouTube stuff. Then another podcast Wednesday, another podcast Friday, and then I've got a special thing I want to do, and I'm hoping to drop it this weekend. It'll be different than the rest of them. Once again, though, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, SoundCloud, like just as many word of mouth, like everything helps you guys. Thank you very much and have an awesome day.